Her name was Thérèse Martin. She lived only 24 short years. She never traveled far, never commanded armies, never wrote great tomes of theology. And yet, her words, her faith, her little way of love have touched millions across continents, languages, and centuries. This is the story of Saint Thérèse of the Child Jesus, the little flower who changed the world. Thérèse Martin was born on January 2nd, 1873, into a devout Catholic family. Her parents, Louis and Zélie, were not wealthy, not famous, yet their home was filled with love and prayer. Both would one day be canonized as saints. When Thérèse was only 4 years old, tragedy struck. Her mother, Zélie, died of breast cancer. For a little child already delicate in spirit, this loss was shattering. She became deeply attached to her father, Louis, who became her world of comfort and protection. Thérèse grew up surrounded by her sisters, who loved and taught her the ways of faith. But she was unusually sensitive. A harsh word or a small misunderstanding could bring her to tears. At 10 years old, she fell gravely ill, trembling, hallucinating, near despair. Doctors could do nothing. But one day, as she prayed, she saw a statue of the Virgin Mary smile at her. In that moment, Thérèse was healed. She believed the Blessed Mother had saved her. From that day, she carried within her a burning desire to give her life completely to God. At just 14 years old, Thérèse felt the irresistible call to join the Carmelite convent in Lisieux. But there was a problem. She was far too young. Her determination, however, was greater than any obstacle. On a pilgrimage to Rome with her father, she knelt before Pope Leo XIII and pleaded, "Holy Father, allow me to enter Carmel." The guards tried to move her along, but the Pope, touched by her courage, gently replied, "If God wills it, you shall enter." 1 year later, her prayers were answered. At only 15, Thérèse crossed the threshold of the cloister. Inside Carmel, the life was hard. Silence, discipline, obedience. For the sensitive young girl, it was a daily battle. Yet, within those walls, Thérèse began to bloom. She fought her weaknesses with prayer. She transformed every small act, every chore, every smile, every sacrifice into an offering of love. Slowly, she discovered her true mission. Thérèse realized she would never do great things in the eyes of the world. She would not preach in distant lands. She would not wear a martyr's crown. But she discovered a greater truth. Holiness does not depend on grand deeds, but on great love. Her little way was a way of childlike trust, to live with humility, to accept weakness, to embrace each small moment and fill it with love. She wrote, "I will seek out a means of getting to heaven by a little way, very short and very straight, a little way that is wholly new. To remain little is to recognize one's nothingness, to expect everything from God, as a little child expects everything from its father." Her sisters saw this lived out daily. In the smallest tasks, in the quietest corners, Thérèse radiated holiness. She would later write in her autobiography, Story of a Soul, "My vocation is love." Thérèse's final years were not filled with light alone. She entered into what mystics call the dark night of the soul. She was afflicted with tuberculosis. Coughing blood, racked with pain, she grew weaker by the day. Yet the greater torment was interior. She wrote of feeling the absence of God, the silence of heaven. And still, she chose to trust. She offered her suffering for the salvation of souls. She whispered again and again, "I will spend my heaven doing good on earth." Even in the darkest night, she loved. Even in the darkest night, she loved. Even in silence, she prayed. On September 30th, 1897, at only 24 years old, Thérèse Martin breathed her last words, "My God, I love you." Her life might have seemed hidden, small, insignificant, but her sisters compiled her writings into a book, Story of a Soul. That book changed the world. It was translated into dozens of languages. Millions of copies were printed. Ordinary men and women, priests, missionaries, popes, all found in her words a radiant path to God. In 1925, she was canonized by Pope Pius XI. In 1997, Pope John Paul II declared her a Doctor of the Church, one of only a few women to bear that title. Today, Saint Thérèse of the Child Jesus is known as the patroness of the missions, even though she never left her convent walls. Missionaries carry her name across continents. Families pray her novenas. Shrines dedicated to her overflow with pilgrims. Her words echo still. What matters in life is not great deeds, but great love. She is remembered as the little flower who promised to let fall from heaven a shower of roses. And for countless souls who pray to her, roses still arrive as signs of her intercession. The world calls her little, but in heaven she is radiant. And so, the little flower blooms forever, leading us not to herself, but always to Christ. She lived hidden, she died young, but her fragrance fills the earth. Saint Thérèse shows us that even the smallest act of love has eternal weight. Her little way is not a path for a few, it is a path for us all.